Hello, this will be a tutorial video on how to create some basic materials within the Unreal Engine. I've got a blank Unreal template project set up, and in other videos I'm going to set up the character movement, and we're going to create things from scratch here. But what I wanted to start off with was show some basis for how to create some materials and pulling in some simple objects to see those different materials applied to them. So I'm going to take a cube, and we'll come back and add the same material set up to a couple of different objects. So I'm going to take a cube and drag it over here, move it up, maybe I'll scale it down some. 0.5 in X, Y, and Z for the scale. So that way I have a basic cube in my scene. And I'm going to drag this over here, and I'll make a couple copies of this. If I hold down the Alt key and click and drag on that cube, that'll make a couple of copies. Hold down Alt and click and drag. And we'll do four or five copies right now. Come back and make an adjustment for them later. So as default, this is a static mesh cube. It has a flat white material on there. And we're going to talk about how to create some basic materials and the basic material presets that we can create. That any other kind of material can be created from these. So in my content browser, I'm going to make sure I have the sources panel opened up. And in the content browser, I'm going to right click and choose new folder. And we're going to call this one materials. So it's good to be organized within our Unreal project. I'm going to put all of my new materials in my materials folder, and then I can assign those materials whatever objects I have in my scene. So in the middle area of the content for the materials folder, I want to right click, and actually before I do that, the lighting needs to be rebuilt. Anytime I add new objects, the lighting needs to be rebuilt. But one thing we'll note and we'll see when I'm changing the material, that's not going to make me change the lighting. If I change the position of a light or position of an object or add a new object in my scene, I need to build my lighting. So what I'm going to do is just click on the build button and let that build the lighting. It's going to go 0 to 100%. I'm just going to let it go. Don't have a lot of lighting that needs to be rebuilt, so that was pretty quick. So that way there's no errors or issues going on there. Alright, so now that I'm ready to look at my model again, in my materials folder I'm going to right click and choose material. So this is going to be a basic material. And we're going to start off with matte material. So we're going to do M for material underscore matte. So this is going to be a material that doesn't have any shine or reflection to it or anything. We're going to use our indicator of M underscore for a material just so that I know this is a material and nothing else. Materials have a green box underneath to signify that they are a material. And then what I need to do next is double click on the material. So this opens up the material editor in Unreal, and this is a visual node based material editor. We have our preview on the left that updates as we start to add to it. Here's our base material node. This is the result node of the material. It has all of the basic PBR, which is physically based rendering nodes, of base color, metallic, roughness, normal. It has other ones such as specular, emissive color. Opacity is grayed out right now. And on the left side, underneath the preview, is our details for this material. So right now it's set to opaque. If we wanted to have opacity, we would change this to translucent and make a couple other adjustments. At the top we have our button menu bar. Our save and apply is going to be important when we're updating our material to see the preview and for when we want to apply our material to new objects. And on the right is our palette. These are all of our individual nodes that we can create. We can also access this by right-clicking in the material editor and typing in a particular node that we know we'll need. If you don't know the node's name, we can always come over here to the palette and locate all of our material nodes. So Unreal uses this visual node-based system for a lot of its features, a lot of its panels or windows. This works the same way as the blueprints in a very similar structure, but this is the way the material editor is set up. So right now it's just a blank material and represents a kind of a black material. We're going to be adding things like base color, metallic, and roughness to the material here. So to do that, we first need a constant. So a constant is a value, and we're going to use a constant 3 vector. So basically, because that's going to give us 3 values, and those values can be associated with a color from a material. So if I come in here with this constant, and it's a constant 3 vector. You can also find it underneath here, constant 3 vector, keyboard shortcut 3. And if I click and drag the output, which is the white circle here, into the base color, that will update my preview material for whatever value of the 3 values of this constant vector 3 I determine. So if I click apply, it's black now because the default constant is black. But if I come over here to the details panel and click on that color swatch for constant, I can type in or use my color slider to choose whatever color I might want. So if I wanted to do, let's just do like a mid blue. There we go. We can also use hex values. We can also use or RGB or HSV. And now I'll adjust the color. If I click apply, that'll update, and the preview will update as well eventually. There you go. We can also change the preview so it's a cylinder, a ball, a plane, cube, and then a teapot. Well, I guess that's a specific mesh. We don't need that right now. So let's just use cube since we are going to use a cube for our ending object now. So that will be a 3 value, which is the constant 3 vector. I'm actually going to right click on this and choose convert to parameter, which will give me the option to change the name of this to color. So I'll type in color. And when I choose convert to parameter, right now it's convert to constant because it's already parameter. This also gives me the option to use what's called material instancing, which we'll come back to later in this tutorial. So for the color, we're just going to use a constant vector 3 and change the color to whatever color we might want. And for the other 2 that we need, we're going to determine the metallic and roughness. The metallic attribute determines how metal-like it says or how reflective the surface is. The roughness controls the smoothness or roughness of the object. So is it going to be shiny or not shiny? Well, a matte material does not need to be shiny, but we need to determine that. Because as default, there's going to be somewhat of a shine to it. It's going to use like a median value to begin with. So for this one, I'm going to drag out from metallic, and I'm going to type in constant. We're going to use the single constant, the single value constant. So there's a bunch of different ways we can do this. We can actually just right click and choose constant, and then drag this to connect it to metallic. Or I can drag off of metallic and type in constant. Okay, I can also hold down the 1 key and click in my graph, and that creates a single value constant as well. So hold down 1 and click is a single value constant. Hold down 2 and clicking is a 2 value constant, and as default that's going to be red and green values. And if I hold down 3, that's going to be a 3 value constant, which is the same as what we created earlier. So that's a vector 1, vector 2, and vector 3. There's also a vector 4 as well. So if I hold down 4 and 4 vector constant, that's going to be red, green, blue, and then alpha. The 3 constant is red, green, blue. The 2 constant is red, green. And the single constant is a single value that's not associated with a particular channel on a color palette. Okay, so we're going to do a single constant for metallic, and then we're going to do a single constant for roughness. Whoops, sorry. Constant. There you go. All right, so the value for metallic is if it's 0, it's going to be 0% metallic, so 0% reflective. Okay. But a value of 0 for roughness means it's going to be really shiny. So the higher the value for roughness means the more rough or the more matte this is going to look. So what we want to do for this matte material is increase the constant value from 0 to 1 for roughness. Metallic value is going to be 0, non-metallic. Roughness value is going to be 1, which means it's going to be a rough finish or a non-shiny finish. There we go. All right, so let's save. Save that material. There we go. And I'm going to close the material editor for a second. And then with this first cube, hit F to zoom in over here. I'm going to take that cube, and in the details panel there's a material right now for the material that says base shape 1 or base shape material. I'm going to click my matte material and drag that over until I overlap the element material there, and then that will replace that material for that cube with this matte material. I'm going to let it load here in a second. It says shaders compiling, so every time I add materials and adjust materials, it's updating those materials. When it gets finished doing that, then it'll show me my matte blue material. Okay, so M-matte, I could call it M-matte blue. We'll just use blue as a default for now. So it's not shiny, it is not reflective. Okay, that's our matte material. Alright, so I am going to escape out of that for a second. I accidentally did that. I'm going to right click on my material, and I can create a new material, but I'm actually going to duplicate this material because I want to reuse some of those base nodes that I already created. So I'm going to right click on that material and choose duplicate. Control W is our keyboard shortcut for that. I'm going to do M_plastic. So this is going to be changed, so it's going to look like a plastic material. Let's double click on that. And plastic materials have a little bit of reflectivity and a little bit of shine. So they're more shinier than they are rough. So what we're going to do is just make our adjustments to our two constants that we have. So the metallic one, let's put a value of, let's try 0.5 in there for right now. So it's going to be somewhat reflective, not 100% reflective. And then for the roughness, we're going to put that closer to 0. So let's do 0.2. So it's going to be much smoother, which is shiny. And it's going to be about 50% reflective for metallic. Now the different kind of plastics and different kinds of shiny materials that we can adjust. We're going to click apply. And so that's applied. We're going to click save. So for plastics or shiny materials, there we see that preview now. It's somewhat reflective, but it's also shiny. So I see the highlight there. I might come in here to the metallic and knock the metallic back down some more. So let's do 0.3. Let that apply. So the higher the metallic value, between 0 and 1, the higher the value, the more metallic it is. The higher the roughness value, the more matte in finish it is. So that looks pretty good for a plastic material. Somewhat reflective, really shiny. So that represents kind of a plastic material. Let's do save. And let's apply that to our second cube. So you can see from my preview it does look more shiny. So I'm going to take my second cube, take my plastic material, and drag that over to the material on the right. There we go. And if I move my camera around, you can see that it is shiny. It is reflecting a little bit of the surfaces around it. But it does look more like a plastic material now. Versus the one on the left is like a matte material. Same color, different shiny and reflective abilities. So that's a plastic material. Let's duplicate this object again. I'm going to duplicate the plastic one. And we're going to call this one M_metal. So this one will be a metallic material. Let's open up that metallic material. And I'm going to change the parameters again so that this is really shiny. So let's do something even lower. Let's just do the extremes. Let's do a value of 0, which is going to be really shiny, not rough at all. And let's crank up our value for metallic to 1. So this is going to be a really metallic material, more so very similar to like a mirror almost, but not that quite reflective. So my metallic value is 1. My roughness value is 0. Let's save and apply. So it updates the preview. There you go. So that's pretty reflective. Looks much more like a metallic object. Very shiny. So metallic is 1, roughness is 0 for a metallic material. Let's close that. My third cube, I'm going to drag my metallic material on top of the material there of the cube. There you go. So hopefully you can see the difference. It's much more reflective. It's even shinier than the plastic material. So now we can make our refinements of different types of metals that have slight variations, a little bit less metallic, a little bit less shiny, and we can play around with other semi-shiny objects like plastics or glass and have variations between our roughness and metallic constants. So we have a basic color that we can change the color as well, and then we've just simply talked about metallic and roughness. That's the basics for materials. I want to show one more, which is an emissive material, which means it's going to glow. And for this one, I'm going to right click and create a new material. And we're going to call this one M_emissive, which means it's going to glow. Let's open up that material. And for this one, I'm actually going to use base color, metallic, or roughness. I'm going to use just the emissive color. And the emissive color is going to drive the color as well as how much it's going to glow. So for this one, I'm going to right click and choose constant 3 again. I'm going to right click again and choose convert to parameter. I'll call this one color. For this one, I'm going to leave the color as black because this is going to be my base root emissive material. This is just another way to kind of organize and set up your hierarchy to create kind of instance copies. We're going to have our base material, and then we're going to create our copies through instancing. That'll be changed for the individual colors. So what I need is another constant. So we're going to do a constant, and this is just going to be a single constant. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose convert to parameter. And we're going to call this one emissive. Alright, and I'm not going to change the values, just going to be 0 as default. And then we need to combine these two into one node, and we're going to use a multiply node, and then that's going to go into emissive color. So I'm going to click and drag out from the white node, which is all of the channels for my vector 3. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to type in multiply. So multiply. There you go. Alright, so the color parameter is going to go into multiply A, and the emissive parameter is going to go into multiply B. There you go. And then from there, my output for multiply is going to drag, left click and drag to emissive color. Right? And there's my whole material for an emissive glowing material. We can add other things to it, but to make something glow, that's as simple as it needs to be. It's not glowing now because our defaults are set to 0 and our black value is preventing it from glow. But we're going to adjust that here in a minute. So let's save. This is the base material. And then we're going to create our instance copies that will create a blue emissive glow, a red emissive glow, an orange emissive glow. So with that emissive material, I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to choose create material instance. And I'm just going to rename that emissive blue. So material instance has a slight darker green than the original copy does. And it kind of shows you that this is a material instance there. Alright, so when I double click on this, this opens up the material instance. I don't see my full graph because it's an instance. What I do see are my values that I have created over here. So I have an emissive value and I have the color value. The color value will drive the base color of the object. So if I click that black swatch and change this to a rough blue like we had earlier, so that'll make it blue. And then the emissive color will change it so it glows more. So 0 means it's going to be no glow. If I increase this to 50, now it's going to pull the color from the emissive color, and it's going to multiply that by 50 to make it look like it's glowing. So it's that blue color, but it's 50 intensity. I can change it to a red or green, whatever I want to do. Originally said this is going to be blue, so we'll keep that as blue. And that's it. So we're going to go back and close this. And we're going to add our emissive material to this last cube over here. I'll let that compile. This is an instance copy of our base material, and we change those values in the instance copy there. So while we're waiting, we can make another instance copy. So create an instance copy of our base emissive, and we're going to call this one maybe red. We can do another copy, and we'll call this one emissive green. Okay. So there's our blue emissive material on our object now. It's casting light on other objects. If I deselect it, you can see it is glowing. Let's make a couple other copies. Whoops. Make another couple copies here to show some of the variations. Right now, so it's pretty bright with 3 of them in there. So here's our emissive green instance copy. And I would just repeat emissive, let's say 50. And then our color, we'll do a green, what's this, green? Green. There you go, so green glow. And you can increase this more, you can do 100. You can do 10, so it glows less. Let's do 100 for this one. And that's the beauty of instance copies, is you can change each instance values, emissive and color, separately. And that does not affect the other copies. So let's take our second one and we will drag our emissive green onto that one. There you go. So that one's glowing green. And then emissive red will come in here. Maybe that's going to be a slight glow, so we'll do 10. And we'll do red. There you go, so it's a slight glow to that one. Each instance copy can have a different set of parameters. So let's drag our material emissive red over to this third cube. There we go. So now we have 3 different variations of a glow. The green is clearly more exaggerated. Then we have the blue, then the red. But all 3 of those is based off of our emissive material. They're just instance copies of them. I've created other objects in here, so I do need to build a light again. But to wrap this up, we've created some basic materials, a basic matte material, a basic plastic material, a basic metal material, and then a basic glow emissive material with some instance copies of variant values and colors. So this is our matte material. This is our plastic material. Look over here and zoom in around that so it's shiny but not too reflective. This is our metallic material, much more reflective. And these 3 are our variations of emissive materials. Right. So that wraps up this video, just giving a brief introduction on materials.